high culture is taking life seriously in an integrated and meaningful and kind of childlike in some cases way. I'm just going to be straightforward here. We should have a better culture than the one that we have now. This world is stupid and dumb in many places, right? And everyone thinks addiction is okay. Like, sort of these addictions that we just deem as, like, you absolutely have to have them. I mean, it's okay to have them. We make so many excuses for addiction. It's insane. Most people have, like, multiple addictions instead of just maybe, like, one. Life is absolutely purposeful, though, as I've witnessed personally for many, many years. And I think that we should be pure, actually. Like, we should be completely sober and completely pure if we can. Like, purity is kind of a thing that people are somewhat against. I believe that we should be pure. If you're like me, let's encourage each other to be pure. And, yeah. All around me, I see addictions and justifications, though. Factory farming, scrolling, being too busy to care about supply chains, being too busy to care about fundamental things, I believe. Nihilism. Don't take life too seriously, bro. Like, it's not that deep. But I also see beacons of communities that are leading by example, which people realize as being way better, and so they write news articles about them, right? It's so interesting, the way people are. Instead of co-creating places, you might want to read about a place or watch something online that shows that place. And it makes sense to be inspired, but we also need to co-create. So, I see 4 sort of battlefields, as I call them, that the war against injustice pretty much takes place in. The first being community and one's own self leading by example. This may not quite make sense right now, but just bear with me. And the second one is, well, no, let's stay with the first one for a second. The problem that the first battlefield, as I call it, faces is isolation. It's so hard to find people to form a community to then lead by example in the world. The second battlefield is the war of one's own mind and body. The problem that faces is justifications. The little primitive brain of ours is going to want to make every justification possible for why it's okay to be negligent and to be addicted and to not care about things and to be mean and ruthless and selfish. The third battlefield, which is kind of on the cultural side of things, societal, the bigger picture, is the indirect consequences and I guess also universal norms of life. These are things like supply chains, it's like, these are like the practical things on the societal level. The problem that faces is limited attention. I mean, we all have our local levels to focus on. So how the hell are we going to focus on these factory farming, right? How the fuck are we supposed to focus on that? Well, I'm going to tell you right now, it's possible to focus on that, and we should. We should reserve some of our energy for these things to show that we care about the systems that we partake in. We should all have some degree of responsibility, I believe. The final battlefield is the divided and grand scale of injustice in our world, as I call it. The problem there is a little bit different. That's just unknown evil in the world. Oh my goodness. This is more of like a grandiose sort of concept in a way, but it's like the abuse that we don't yet know about, the abuse that could be next door that we don't know about, the full scale of like, is life terrible? Like this is the kind of question that would be asked, is like, is there something really truly evil in this life that just we can never get out of, I guess? Who is suffering the most in the world right now? Like in a very real, literal sense. Who is suffering the most right now? This is the kind of stuff I think about, right? It plagues me and it overwhelms me. And it makes me reconsider day after day after day if life is even worth it because of this level of injustice that doesn't even happen to me, but it just happens to anybody in the world. So people are half dead and addicted. And I feel like we live under this contract of unspoken mediocrity, where it's like, yeah, you don't try too hard. I'm not going to really try too hard either. Fuck that, though. Let's make something better. I don't mean to speak down on people, though. Let me know if it really seems like I am speaking down on people, but that's not what I'm trying to do here. I'm speaking down on generational patterns of things that I have good reason to believe are outdated and foolish, like, truly. So what next, though? Like, we have the problems, and then, like, I love to have action to go along with it, because problems without action is just death. I think we have a calling, and probably a responsibility, to actualize our own life purpose and lean into it, becoming our best selves so we can end injustice everywhere and in our own lives. I know it's ambitious. I know. I'm very ambitious. I'm going to stay that way. It's kind of my life purpose at this point, to be ambitious. And that's the point as well. Let's be ambitious. That's what this new culture is. That's what what I could call high culture would be, the prioritization of ending injustice in a beautiful way is kind of how I would say it simply. And I'd say let's start with beautiful language itself to describe what we're building. Let's build a culture that actually includes purity and radical self-sacrifice. A culture where we can examine the virtues that we stand for and actually live by them. I stand for empathy. So that means, like, for me, that means all problems, caring loosely about all problems in the world to some extent, like hearing everything. And of course, the universal understanding of empathy, caring about people and caring about things and kind of feeling some of the pain that others feel. It's really hard. It's actually hard. I don't see a lot of people doing it very perfectly. Also, control for me is a core value. It's more on the universal side of my values, and I'll get to my specific values in a second. But it's three parts for me. There's control over our technology, right? That became a value of mine after realizing just how much child abuse there can be through technology. So controlling our technology to not let it control us. Controlling our lives so that we actually, it's straightforward. We can actually have control over our own lives. If you're like me, you know what I mean when you might think of what it would be like to be deprived of control over your own lives, whether through addiction or through some kind of violation against you. Everybody's traumatized. I guess that's actually kind of outside of the point, but the final part of that would be having a healthy amount of control over the problems that you face in the world. You are not powerless in the face of injustice. That's impossible for someone like me to comprehend, because I've spent my entire life realizing that every small, tiny little action matters, especially in this wider context of, like, we are trying to end injustice in our world as it pertains to the most vulnerable people among us. Everything you do matters. Communication is another value. Fairly straightforward, just understanding the other person's side faithfully and avoiding those good old fallacies. There's an entire list of just every problem that one could run into when trying to communicate with somebody. Action is another value in the face of incomprehensibly large problems. Specifically, incomprehensibly large problems. I also stand for specific virtues like alternative land ownership for human flourishment. For example, land ownership upon birth as a human right, so that you can then have the right to build your own house. For free, of course, without participating in systems that you could observe to be corrupt. Absolute purity. like, again, like I mentioned, like absolute purity. I think we should strive for that. That actually sounds cool to me, and I don't want to be ashamed of that anymore. That would come from, I think we need community empowerment on some of these. Minimalism, adventure, and traveling to find beautiful places and people in the world. I have another value that I've named as student of hope, and that is learning, hopefully and humbly about the world, basically hoping that you could one day ever learn to know a single fucking thing about a single fucking thing. It's a sort of way of looking at the world where, like, okay, it's impossible for me to learn things in a way because I keep getting reset, I keep getting humbled by learning new things. So I'm a student of hope, right? I hear stories of people instead of going to college necessarily, right? Child exploitation prevention through big picture understandings. That's kind of like another value of mine. Like, everybody really cares about child exploitation prevention. I care about it in this specific way where, like, I'm just like talking about it every single day, and hopefully on a big scale, and hopefully I can enact change there, create change in the world through this. You know, I'm just listing off my values at this point, but I also value Christian language and grandiose type language. I value architectural beauty. I value preventing light pollution so that we can protect the most beautiful thing in the world, which is the sky and the Milky Way. So perhaps we can start somewhat of a ritual. This is interesting. Maybe we could start a ritual focusing on that last value that I mentioned, if you kind of share that one. Again, a lot of people share these more specific ones to some extent, just not in the same way that I do, it would seem. Not in a way that you don't want to take action on it or anything. So the ritual I have in mind would be, we could wear a red cloth or some kind of tie. I'm still thinking about it, right? We could wear it around us, like maybe our collar or something. And then we could take it off and use it to dim our flashlights when we walk around at night. I know, right? It's kind of interesting. Like, you're never going to hear anything like this online if you're finding me through something like an algorithm, or just if you're like a stranger, right? If you're in my in-person life, oh my gosh, I need people to, I generally like to speak to strangers because it's more like comforting and more easy or whatever. But of course, like, it is going to be important for people in my in-person life to discover these things and understand like who I am, I believe. Wearing the tie, though, itself would be a commitment to a dedication to our anti-exploitation values and life purpose as we struggle to find like-minded people. So it's like a lonesome sort of thing, but in the most beautiful possible way. What do you think about that? I'm putting the idea forward. Perhaps we can start a shared ritual together. Perhaps that can be like a cultural thing that we have. And of course, like, I'm not going to be the smartest or greatest person like to figure out all these kinds of things. Whatever. I put forward ideas because I know that it's right to try. The point on this channel is to try, anyways. Let's get real serious about this world and our role inside of it. Because vulnerable people are stuck in isolation, and they are depending on this. They are depending on us being the best embodied versions of ourselves to then pour out into the world through outward work. I can't explain how much the world would change and how amazing this would be if we decided to step up in this way. If you know what I speak of, and you have the conviction, then it is time. Thank you for watching this.